When we are looking at onboarding clients, first thing we do is database reactivation. Why? Because email is free. We're not looking at the one-off value, the one-off transaction, but how much they spend with you on the average lifetime. Do you understand how powerful that is to create trust and value for our client right off the get-go? You could literally be sitting on a pot of gold. Welcome to the Results-Based Marketing Podcast, the podcast for business owners looking to leverage wildly profitable and cutting-edge marketing, lead generation, and lead nurture campaigns in their business. I'm Simeon Cryer, the founder of Automate Convert, where we've literally helped clients generate millions, hundreds of millions of dollars using the exact strategies that I'm going to share with you in this podcast. So if you want to automate, convert, and dominate your industry, you're in the right place at the right time. Let's get started. Thanks for being here. Bring out your old, cold, dead leads. Hey, it's Simon from the Results-Based Marketing Podcast, and today we are going to talk about database reactivation. Now, who might want to look at this strategy? Anyone who has ever got a database, anyone who might be potentially sitting on a pot of gold, which, by the way, is your database. As an agency, when we first engage with clients, the first place we look for is low-hanging fruit. They got into your database for a reason. They were looking to solve a problem, and maybe the timing just wasn't right. Maybe there was some circumstances in their life that piqued their interest, but it just didn't work out for them. So maybe that could be a month ago. That could be a week ago. That could be yesterday, and today's a very new day, right? So often when we are looking at onboarding clients, first thing we do is database reactivation. Why? Because email is free, right? So it doesn't take a lot to send an email, to send a text message, and get people back into conversation. So if we're working with clients that have a lifetime value, and we'll talk about lifetime value, which is, by the way, not the value of one transaction, but the value of all the transactions that they're with you for the life journey of their average journey. So if a client is with you and they spend $3,000 a year and they're worth to you, they're with you for like 3 years, then that's like $9,000 gross value. You can even say, okay, well, our profitability is 50%, let's just say, for my maths. You can say, hey, the lifetime value of my customer, average over 3 years, spending $3,000 a year, lifetime value at a 50% margin is $4,500. It's a really good metric, by the way, to know the lifetime value, or at least the lifetime gross value of the business, the new business, your customer, because it helps you understand how much you would pay to acquire a customer, right? So all of a sudden, the maths are starting to make sense. And so, if you said to me, Simon, I will give you $1,000 to make $4,500, I would take that deal. Do you know what I mean? Especially if I can make over $1,000 in my very first year, knowing that the client's going to be with me on average for 3 years. Does that make sense? So this is why database reactivation is really, really valuable for you. We're not looking at the one-off value, the one-off transaction, but how much they spend with you on the average lifetime. So often when we are an agency engaging with a new client, before we spend a cent on advertising, we want to do database reactivation. Why? Deep psychology, firstly. And secondly, low-hanging fruit and profit. So we can get some quick wins, get some quick profit in the door before we spend a cent on advertising. Do you understand how powerful that is to create trust and value for our client right off the get-go? It's a very, very cool first date. I'll tell you that right now, especially if we can make 10, 20 grand before we spend a cent in advertising. And it's good for us, for the relationship, building trust, but it's great for the clients because they just made an extra 20, 30, 40 grand. Even if it's an extra 5 grand, it's just a great thing to do. All right, and it makes them feel good, it makes them feel confident that they made a really wise decision in investing their time, their dollars, and their trust in us. Who might want to look at database reactivation? Anyone who has a list. You could literally be sitting on a pot of gold. In our previous podcast, I talked about an email marketing campaign that we did that generated $2.5 million worth of revenue without a single cent spent on advertising. It was through database reactivation. It was about crafting a very specific offer, speaking to our clients, our pain points, their wants, their desires, their aspirations, who they blame, is giving them some real clear calls to action. It was really embedding a bunch of scarcity and urgency, reasons to take action today, reasons to get into conversations today. We weren't selling a $10,000 course. We were selling a free coaching call. Get onto one of our coaches and have a talk about whether this step is the perfect step for your future. We're painting a preferred future outcome for them, showing them how they could future-proof their finances, how they could, with all the uncertainty that's going on in the financial landscape of the world economy right now, how they could create certainty, how they could winter-proof their finances. Notice the words that we injected into our copy. $2.5 million, can't really go wrong with something like that. How about you? I want to know what you're thinking about with your database. You could be sitting on a pot of gold. If you need some information about where to get started on this whole database reactivation, give us a call. We can show you how to intelligently put this on autopilot for you, where you have a series of emails, you have a series of text messages. You can line people up to have a first date rather than asking for their hand in marriage, right? So give them things that are easy to say yes to, low barriers to do business with, right? Give them some value, give them a free download. It depends on your database. If you haven't spoken to your database for 3 years, then maybe it's not a great idea to ask them to buy from you immediately. Maybe the best thing you need to do is bring them back into your world. Give them some value. Let them know that you actually care about them and give them some free downloads that you think would be helpful before you're asking for a conversation about a transaction. Build value, build relationship, and then it's a good idea. I had a client recently who had 195,000 people on his database and wanted to commercialize the database. But the thing is, he hadn't spoken to them in 3 years. It's like, hey man, there's probably 3 to 6 months of relationship building, getting them back into the fold, communicating how much you care about them, giving them some real valuable tips. Let's give them some free downloads. Let's give them a free course that's valued at $4,000. Let's give it to them for free before we ask them to pay for the $40,000 course. This is what database reactivation is all about. I have another friend that we did some marketing for. He had a very well-nurtured list. And so we generated about $500,000 from his database reactivation program. Small database of 8,000 people, always nurturing them, always giving value. So now it's time to commercialize. You can do that straight away if you've got good value going out and if you're in touch with them on a regular basis. So I'd love to know your thoughts on database reactivation. Are you in constant contact with your database right now? Do you need to go and approach them and give them some offers, give them some value, and get them back into relationships so that they can ultimately buy from you? Because right now, if you've got a database, you own that. Whereas if you're doing paid advertising, you're renting someone else's database. And so you've got a wonderful asset right at your fingertips right now. So let's go and start engage with them. I'd love to know your thoughts on this topic and what your questions might be about database reactivation. Happy marketing. Hey, thanks so much for tuning in to Results-Based Marketing. If today's episode gave you valuable insights into maximizing your marketing efforts, we'd love your support. Please give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And don't forget to subscribe on your favorite platform. Let's keep the conversation going. Connect with me on socials at Simeon Cryer. All the links for me are in the show notes below. And happy marketing. Thank you so much for your attention.